Have you ever stopped to think about how past issues may be influencing your choices today? Perhaps you grew up in an environment where yelling and punishment were common, or you heard phrases like, "You don't do anything right," or "Stop crying, that's nonsense." These experiences leave deep marks. I know, because I've been through it too. I grew up in an environment where physical and emotional violence were treated as something normal. And that changed a lot of what I felt and how I acted. But you know what I learned? That it's possible to reinterpret these pains and use rational logic to take control of our lives. In today's video, I'm going to share a method that combines psychoanalysis, neuroscience, and objectivist philosophy to overcome traumas and live autonomously and responsibly. Shall we go together? If you identify with these situations, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Here, I bring practical content that can transform your life. Before we talk about how to overcome traumas, it's important to understand what they really are and why they affect our decisions so much. Traumas are not just major events, like loss or abuse. Often they are situations that seem small, but leave a deep mark. Like, for example, silence. After a mistake or the lack of support when you were a child and you were feeling very scared. So, what happens to the brain when we go through these experiences? One of the most impacted areas is the amygdala, a structure in the heart limbic system responsible for processing emotions, especially fear and stress. When you face something that your brain interprets as a threat, whether it's a shout, a criticism, or even a hostile environment, the amygdala goes into alert mode. It's like an alarm that goes off, preparing you to fight, flee, or freeze. The problem is that when the trauma isn't reinterpreted, the amygdala remains hyperactive. This means that even in safe situations, your brain can react as if it's in danger. That's why we often react excessively to small things like a criticism at work or a conflict at home. And have you noticed that certain situations make you react disproportionately or leave you paralyzed? This can be a direct reflection of how your amygdala was conditioned by past experiences, even back in childhood. Now that we understand the impact of traumas and how they affect the brain, the question is how to overcome them. This is where the idea of reinterpreting comes in, that is, giving a new meaning to what happened. And it's at this point that psychoanalysis comes in, neuroscience and objectivist philosophy. The first step is to recognize how trauma manifests in your daily life. In the book Subliminal, the author explains that most of our decisions are influenced by unconscious patterns. To change this, we need to bring these patterns into awareness. This means observing your actions and asking yourself, why am I reacting this way? What is the origin of this? Imagine that you avoid discussing a new idea with a client, even though you know your idea is good. Ask yourself, this fear of exposing my idea is because I'm really not prepared, or because in the past I was criticized every time I tried something new. Recognizing this is the first step to transformation. Your reactions. And exercise. 2. Identify if your behavior is being affected by a trauma. Take a piece of paper and write down, what situations make me uncomfortable? What do these situations have in common with experiences from my past? So, after recognizing, the next step is to reframe. Reframing is the process of looking at trauma from a new perspective. Antonio Damasio explains that emotion and reason are not separate. They work together. That it means you can use logic to reinterpret emotional memories. If you tried starting a business in the past and it didn't work out, instead of thinking, "Oh, I'm not good enough to be an entrepreneur," ask yourself, what did this experience teach me about planning and decision making? How can I use this to improve? In the next attempt, turning mistakes into learning is the essence of reframing. So, when you identify those difficult moments that might be causing this behavior, do the following. Close your eyes and visualize the difficult event as if it were a movie. Imagine yourself comforting the younger version of you. Ask yourself, what would I say to myself back then, perhaps? This practice helps change the narrative you tell yourself. Daniel Kahneman, in his book Thinking Fast and Slow, explains that we have two systems in our brain. One is fast and emotional, and the other is slow and rational. Many times we act impulsively because our emotional system takes over the situation. But the good news is that we can create a space for reflection between impulse and action. If you feel angry when dealing with a tough situation in your business, like a customer's criticism or unexpected feedback, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is this emotion telling me? How can I respond in a way that aligns with what I want for my business? To control impulsive actions, whenever you feel an intense emotion, take a 10-second pause before acting. That space between impulse and action is where you regain control. So, after recognizing and reframing your traumas, the next step is to gain emotional autonomy. But what does that mean? Emotional autonomy is the ability to make conscious decisions based on your values without being controlled by traumas or the need for approval from others. It's about living in alignment with who you really are, with logic and purpose. As N. Hunt describes, this is living rationally. Irresponsible? Think of someone who dreams of starting their own business, but grew up hearing things like, having your own business is very risky. It's better to look for a job in the public sector, take exams. These limiting beliefs can block a person from pursuing their dreams, even when they have all the conditions to create something amazing. Emotional autonomy helps you logically assess risks and understand what is possible and take action. Decisions based on your own goals, and not on the beliefs you inherited from the past. So, at the end of the day, ask yourself, the choices I made today reflect what I want to build, or are they based on fear and the expectations of other people? This practice strengthens your autonomy and helps align your actions with your values. Today, we talked about how traumas influence our decisions and how to use logic and emotion to reframe those memories. The path to emotional autonomy requires recognizing, reframing, and aligning reason and emotion. Remember that you are not defined by what happened to you, but by what you do with what happened. Every small decision can change your life. If this video helped you, like it, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who also needs this message. Let's go together on this journey of transformation